At 1:15 a.m., I was awake, alone in the cruise ship cabin. Outside, the soft sound of ocean waves and the low hum of the ship's engine could be heard. My name is Travis Hansen, and this was last August when I went on a cruise from Miami to the Bahamas with my girlfriend, Caitlin. It was my first trip, and Caitlin had said it would be an amazing experience. But now I wasn't feeling that way. The first 2 days were fine. We had fun, ate food, and strolled on the deck. Our cabin was on deck 5, with a beautiful view of the sea. But on the third night, everything changed. It was 11 p.m. Caitlin and I were strolling on deck 8, where the lights were dim. Suddenly, a man passed by us. He looked at Caitlin with a strange smile and said, "The night is beautiful, isn't it?" There was something in his voice that I didn't like, so we ignored him and walked on. The next day, at breakfast, a woman named Jennifer came to our table. We had met her before. She told us that she had seen the same man wandering alone on the deck until 2 a.m. Jennifer said, laughing, that she had heard him talking to someone on the phone, saying, "That girl is very nice, but her boyfriend is a little annoying." Hearing this, I was confused. That same night, I was strolling on the deck alone when I saw that man again. His name was Mike. He came close to me and said, "Your girlfriend is very sweet. You are lucky." I thanked him and started to leave, but he followed me. He started asking strange questions about our relationship. I did not like his tone at all. The next day, Jennifer told us that she had seen Mike arguing with a crew member. He was demanding some extra services, and when he was denied, he became very aggressive. Caitlin said we should stay away from him, but I felt that staying away from him was impossible. That night at 12:45 a.m., when we came back to our cabin, we found a small piece of paper stuck in our door. It said, "You people should be more careful." Seeing this, Caitlin's face turned white with fear. We immediately called security, but they dismissed it as a children's prank. Around 2 a.m., our cabin door was knocked on loudly. I opened the door, but there was no one. But on the floor, there was a picture of us that we had taken near the pool that day. Now we were sure that someone was following us. We talked to the security chief, John, but his behavior was strange. He said he would check the CCTV, but we couldn't trust his words. That same night, at 3:30 a.m., our cabin door was slightly ajar. My heart started beating fast. When I went inside, I saw all our luggage was scattered. Caitlin's purse was missing, and there was a note on the bed. "I can get to you." It was a clear threat. We immediately called security again, but they were careless. We spent the rest of the night awake, with a chair in front of the door. At 6 a.m., when the ship docked at the port, we immediately took our luggage and got off. The security chief said they would interrogate Mike, but there was no seriousness on their faces. An old passenger told us that Mike was in contact with some suspicious people, maybe involved in some illegal activity. After returning home, we filed a report with the police. They said they would contact the cruise company, but we didn't have much hope. Caitlin still wakes up in fear, and whenever I see a stranger, I feel like he is Mike. This incident is only a few months old, but this fear will always remain with us. It was 12:45 a.m., and I was on a cruise ship. I was in my cabin, trying to sleep. I was telling myself, "This is a great trip. I'm so happy to be here." I looked at my cabin door. It was closed, and I felt safe. I sat on my bed and started reading a book. It was a very peaceful and quiet night. I was lost in my book, but I suddenly heard a loud knock on the door. I thought for a moment that maybe someone had come by mistake, but the knocking was repeated loudly. I got scared and I closed my book. I slowly got up from the bed and went toward the door. I put my ear to the door and heard someone's voice outside. He was a man, and his voice was very angry and loud. He was saying, "This is my room. Open the door." I didn't answer, but he kept knocking on the door and turning the doorknob. I was very scared, and I said to myself, "He's drunk. Leave him alone. He'll go away." But he didn't. He started knocking on the door again, and this time he pushed the door hard. I felt as if someone was trying to get in. I heard my heart beating, and I felt as if my heart would come out of my chest. I was very scared, and I had no idea what to do. I looked at my phone and thought about calling someone, but I knew there was no signal on this cruise ship. I looked inside my room and saw an old stick that was used to block the door. I immediately picked up the stick and put it under the doorknob. It gave me some peace, but the man was still pushing the door from the outside. He kicked the door hard once more and said, "I will kill you if you don't open the door." I was very scared, and I felt as if this was my last night. I slowly put my ear to the door and heard him talking to someone on his mobile. He said to someone, "This girl is inside and she's not opening the door." Hearing this, I felt that it was not just one person. I was very scared, and I immediately tried to hide under my bed. I held my breath and I closed my eyes for a while. I said to myself, "If these people get inside, what will I do?" I held my stick tightly and decided that if they got inside, I would fight them. After a while, I heard another loud knock on the door, and he was saying, "We are coming inside. Get ready." I opened my eyes after hearing this and saw that they were trying to break the door with a strong thing. I felt that the doorknob was shaking, and I felt as if the door was about to open. I heard my heart beating again, and I felt that my heart was beating fast. I thought that I had nothing now. I immediately picked up my mobile and tried to call the police, but there was no signal on this cruise ship. I looked in my room, and I felt that I couldn't do anything now. I picked up my stick, and I thought that I would fight them. I closed my eyes, and I thought that if this was my last night, I would fight it. Suddenly, the knocking on the door stopped, and for a moment I thought they were gone. I opened my eyes and heard someone knocking on the door. It was another man's voice, and he was very worried. He was saying, "What happened? Are you okay?" I felt that he was a security guard. I immediately opened the door and I told him what had happened. He was very worried too, and he told me that he would hand that person over to the police. I told him that I hadn't done anything yet. He told me, "We will catch that person, don't worry." I told him that I was very scared, and I asked him to stay with me. He told me that I was safe, and he decided to stay with me. He was protecting me, and I got some peace. He told me that they would catch that person and punish him. After that, I left that trip, and I never traveled on a cruise ship again. It was a very terrifying experience, and I felt that I had never felt so scared in my life. It was a very fearful experience, and I will never forget it.
My name is Lauren Davis, and this story is the nightmare of my life that became a reality, and it began last summer. My two best friends, Cassie and Brittany, and I were final year students at the University of Maryland. After all the graduation preparations and exam pressure, we desperately needed a break. We decided, why not go on a cruise trip? Our goal was to forget all our responsibilities for a few days and spend moments of peace and fun in the middle of the sea. We had booked a cruise on Royal Caribbean, which was to depart from Baltimore, Maryland, toward the Bahamas. The ship was very big and magnificent. Our cabin was on deck 7. When we reached our cabin, the first thing that caught my eye was the magnificent view of the sea from the large window. The blue waves of the water and the deep color of the sky were merging into each other. This scene looked like a painting. The first 2 days were exactly as we had dreamed. We woke up in the morning with the sun's rays and had breakfast, spent the whole day exploring different parts of the ship, swam in the swimming pool, and in the evening sat on the beautiful deck and watched the sunset. At night, we would go to the dance floor, where a crowd of young people was swaying to the rhythm of the music. We met a lot of people, talked, and had a great time laughing and playing. Everything seemed perfect, as if time had stopped. But we didn't know that this peace would not last long. From the third day, a strange, cold, and terrifying series of events was about to begin. It was 3 p.m. on the third day. We were sitting at the open bar on deck 10. The heat of the sun was still there, but the cool breeze from the sea was giving us peace. We were lost in our conversations, laughing and enjoying light drinks. Meanwhile, a tall, thin boy came and stopped near our table. There was a strange glow in his eyes, and on his face there was a forced smile. "Can I sit with you?" he asked. I looked at Cassie and Brittany. Both of them nodded in agreement, and I gave him permission. He introduced himself as Rain and said that he was traveling alone. In the beginning, his words were very friendly and normal. He asked us where we were from, what we studied, and how the trip was. But very soon, the direction of his conversation became personal. He suddenly turned to Cassie and started asking her about her relationships. "Cassie, do you have a boyfriend?" he asked. Cassie hesitated and gave a short answer. Then he looked at me and smiled. "Lauren, your smile is very sweet," he said. I felt this was very strange. There was a peering look in his eyes that was making me restless. After that, he told us that he would meet us later on the dance floor and walked away. We looked at each other. "There is something strange about this boy," Brittany whispered. Cassie also agreed. We were ignoring him, but even after that, he would often stare at us from a distance. As soon as we were visible on the deck, in the bar, or anywhere else, we felt that someone was watching us. And when we looked up, we would see Rain, who would immediately look away. One evening, we were watching the sunset in the open part of the ship. The sky was dipped in orange and pink colors. The waves of the sea were presenting a beautiful scene. Suddenly, Rain came near us. This time, there was no smile on his face. "Why are you people always together?" he asked Cassie in an aggressive way. "Don't you ever wander alone?" His tone was a little harsh and threatening. I immediately interfered and tried to divert him. "We are friends, that's why we are together," I said. He looked at me with an annoyed look but remained silent. We immediately got up from there and started walking toward our cabin. When I looked back, I saw that Rain was coming after us. One of his hands was in his pocket, and he was walking slowly. I felt as if he had something, a weapon. My heart started beating fast, and I felt that we were stuck in some deep trouble. At 9 p.m., we came back to our cabin. As soon as I opened the door, my eyes went down. A paper was stuck under the door. We looked at each other, and Brittany bent down and picked up the paper. It was written on it with a thick pen. "You people are very sweet. I want to meet you." There was no name, but we knew who it was from. It was a clear sign of a threat. We quickly locked the door from the inside. I couldn't sleep that night. I would get startled at every little sound, every noise. I felt that someone was standing outside our door. The next day, another girl, Ava, talked to us. She was also a single passenger. She slowly told us that she had heard Rain talking to a crew member. He was saying, "Those girls are very difficult, but I won't give up." There was a lot of anger in his voice. Ava advised us not to wander alone at night. After that, we realized that Rain's intention was not just to make friends with someone, but something else. Now all of us were very worried, and our peace had completely vanished. That same evening, we were going toward our cabin. The corridor was almost silent. When we turned at a corner, Rain suddenly appeared in front of us. This time, his face was very serious, and his eyes were filled with anger. "Cassie, why are your friends always with you?" he asked Cassie. His tone was very harsh this time. When I interfered, "Don't get involved in our matters," he looked at me angrily and said, "Why do you poke your nose everywhere?" His hand went into his pocket again, and this time I was sure that he had a weapon, maybe a knife or something else. Brittany immediately took out her phone from her pocket and started calling security. As soon as she picked up the phone, Rain started backing away with a cold, triumphant smile. "We will meet again." He disappeared into the corridor laughing. That night, around 10 p.m., there was a loud knock on our door. A heart-wrenching knock that continued for several seconds. "Lauren, come out. I just want to talk." Rain's voice came from outside the door. There was a terrifying obsession in his voice. All three of us were terrified. We didn't open the door, and Brittany called security again. When they arrived, Rain was gone. The security chief, whose name was Mark, was a heavy man. He looked very careless. "We will check the CCTV," he said, but there was no seriousness in his tone. He advised us to rest. But that same day, we saw Rain with another boy from the ship's crew. Both of them were staring at us. Later, Ava told us that Rain was probably harassing people along with some people from the ship's crew and extorting money from them. After hearing this, our fear increased. That evening, another note was slipped under our cabin door. It said, "You people are running too much. Next time it won't be good." Along with it, there was a blurry picture of me that was taken that morning. That was the moment when our fear turned into certainty. We felt that we were not safe on this ship anymore. The next morning at 7 a.m., when the ship docked at a port, we quickly picked up our luggage and decided to get off without telling anyone. The security chief tried to stop us. "We are detaining Rain." But we didn't trust him at all. As soon as we got off the ship, we saw Ava at the port. "Rain and his companions have been arrested for harassment on the ship," she told us. After returning home, we filed a report with the local police, but we didn't have much hope. Even today, when I am alone, I feel that someone is watching me. The memories of that cruise still don't let me sleep. That smile and those eyes still come in front of my eyes.
It was a deep blue morning, the cool September air hitting the cruise ship's balconies. I, Jack, was sitting in the dining hall with my family, having breakfast. It was a huge hall, and its windows offered a wide view of the sea. The aroma of the breakfast spread out in the entire hall. My wife Sarah, my son Liam, and my daughter Emma were all very happy. Liam and Emma were joking with each other, and their laughter filled my heart with joy. It was our first day on the cruise ship, and we were all very excited for this magnificent journey. In this pleasant atmosphere, a scream suddenly echoed. "Where is my coffee cup? Why haven't I gotten my coffee yet?" The voice was so loud and filled with anger that all the people in the hall looked at one person. He was a middle-aged man, and arrogance was clearly visible on his face. The veins in his neck were bulging with anger, and he had clenched his fists tightly. He signaled a waiter to come to him, who immediately came to him. "Are you stupid? I said I want a cup of coffee. Are you deaf?" he screamed at the waiter. The waiter's face turned red with embarrassment, and he stammered, "I'm sorry, sir. I'll get it right away." But that person was not stopping at all. "Do you people have any idea who I am?" he said, making the entire hall hear him. His voice was filled with pride. "We are very rich people, and there should be no lack in our service." Seeing his behavior, I was surprised. On one hand, he was in such a beautiful environment, and on the other hand, there was no limit to his rudeness. Seeing this scene, I couldn't stop myself. I slowly stood up, looked at him, and said softly, "Sir, I think it's not a good thing to spoil this wonderful morning." His angry eyes immediately turned toward me. "Who are you?" he said, looking at my face carefully. "Will you tell me when and what to talk about?" "I just want to say that we should be kind," I replied in a calm voice. There were mixed expressions of surprise and anger on his face. "You didn't recognize me," he said with a slight smile, which felt more like a threat than a joke. "Do you really not know who I am?" "No, I don't know," I replied calmly. "But I can tell you one thing. It's necessary to be kind in all circumstances." His face turned red and he gritted his teeth in anger, as if he couldn't control my words. "You are very brave," he said in a very slow but dangerous voice, "but this bravery can cost you a lot." I ignored his words and finished my breakfast. I felt that talking to him further was useless. I took my family, and we all quietly went toward our cabin. Liam and Emma were silent, as if they were also worried about this situation. Throughout the day, that man's threat echoed in my mind. When I was on the deck looking at the sea, or when I was resting in my cabin, his voice was echoing in my ears. I comforted myself that all this would end on this cruise ship. It was a brief meeting, and now that person would not come into our lives again. "He's just a rich and arrogant man," I tried to make my heart understand, and he left after letting out his anger. But I was not believing that I was thinking correctly. It was 10 p.m., and I was alone in my cabin. Sarah, Liam, and Emma had gone to watch a theater show on the cruise ship. I was reading something on my phone when suddenly there was a loud knock on the door. I was startled for a moment. Maybe my family has come back. I took steps toward the door. When I opened the door, there was no one there. The path outside was completely empty. Only the faint light of the corridor was coming inside the door. I looked around in surprise, but saw nothing. I slowly closed the door. Maybe someone is playing a joke, I thought. I sat back on my bed and picked up the phone. Just a few minutes had passed when there was a knock on the door again, this time louder than before. I was startled. This was definitely not a joke. I opened the door, but this time also there was no one there. I felt a strange uneasiness. My heart started beating fast. A cold wave ran down my spine. It was the same person. He was trying to scare me. I immediately closed the door and locked it. I held the door and comforted myself. He's just playing a joke." After a while, I saw a small slip of paper under the door. I picked it up, and my hands started shaking after seeing the writing on it. "You didn't recognize me." These were the same words he had said to me in the morning. I was drenched in sweat from fear. I immediately dialed Sarah's number from my phone and quickly asked them to come back. The panic was clearly felt in my voice. "Come back right away. I don't feel right." I was waiting for them. Everything in the room started to feel strange to me. I felt as if someone was watching me. I looked toward my cabin's balcony. Our cabin only looked out at the sea. But this time, a shadow appeared on the balcony's railing. My breath stopped. A man was standing there. His face was clearly visible in the dim light of the balcony. It was the same person I had talked to in the morning. There was an ugly, big smile on his face, and he was gesturing toward me with his finger, as if to say, "I am watching you." A thrill ran through my body, and I immediately pulled the balcony curtains tightly. I locked myself in the room and stood near the door, waiting for Sarah, Liam, and Emma. After a while, they all came back. They saw me in a frightened state. Sarah came to me with worry and asked me, "What happened, Jack?" I told them the whole story. Fear also took over their faces. Liam, who was always brave, came near me and held my hand. "Dad, you don't need to be afraid. We are all with you." His presence gave me some comfort. We immediately contacted the ship's crew and informed them about this incident. They said that they would investigate this problem and ensure our safety. But seeing their behavior, I felt that they were not taking our words seriously. There was no worry in their voice, as if this was a normal thing. It was night, and we were all in the cabin. We tried to sleep. I was lying on the bed and was continuously awake. Suddenly, I heard a noise from outside. I got up and looked at the door. The keyhole of the door was looking black, and a small light was visible from under the door. A shadow was visible in that light. I woke up Liam and pointed toward him. We both slowly got up and looked at the door. That shadow was a man's. He was slowly pushing the door and trying to open the door. Suddenly, a voice came from the door. "You are very brave, but this bravery can cost you a lot." I immediately woke up my family. We were all shaking with fear. I quickly held the door tightly. We tried to ask for help on the phone, but the phone was not working due to the network. We held the door all night and stayed awake in fear. Morning came, and he was gone. We immediately called the ship's crew and told them all the incidents. This time, they were very worried. Fear was clearly visible on their faces. "Do you know his name?" a crew member asked with worry. "Yes," I told his name. Their color turned pale. "Do you know who he is?" another member asked in a trembling voice. "No," I said. "He is the owner of this cruise. He is very rich and influential, and no one goes against him. He can do anything with anyone on his personal ship, and no one can stop him." We were all surprised, and I got a very big shock. We decided to leave this trip and immediately got off the cruise ship and returned home. After that day, I never traveled on a cruise. It was a very terrifying experience, which became a nightmare in my life. I felt that rich people can do a lot, and they have so much power that they can go to any extent and no one can stop them.